please welcome James Urbaniak.
All right. Thank you, Patty.
Oh, you're very welcome, sir.
Yes, so.
Well, welcome to Des Moines.
We can say Des Moines.
We can say Des Moines, yes.
All right. Welcome to a major state.
I know. I know. Welcome to the state. Yeah, we're living in interesting times, aren't we?
We are. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Well, it's weird because we've been on stage before in goofy game shows and stuff. This is the first chance I've had to sit down and actually talk to you about your career.
Yes.
So, I'd like to hear the origin story. What compelled you to go into acting?
I didn't really act as a kid, but in elementary school, sometimes we would do little sketches and things in class. Like in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I had teachers who sometime during the month would do little skits and things. And I was drawn to those, and I felt like I was good at them. And I just responded to that. And then in high school, I didn't do so much. I was in a couple of plays. Once I was just in the chorus. But then I went to a community college, and they had a pretty nice theater department there. And that's when I really sort of got drawn into it. And I started doing play after play at that school. And then I was doing a lot of community theater in the area, just like amateur acting. And then I got to a point in the 80s where I was a classic sort of young Gen X slacker. I had stopped going to school, and I was just kind of doing amateur theater, working a day job, and hanging out with my friends without a real career path going on. And then long story short is I met a woman who really became my mentor, who was a theater director. And she wanted to form a theater company in New York. At the time we met, she was going to Columbia University to get a directing degree. And so we ended up forming a company. And that's what gave me the incentive to move into the city. So now I'm in my early 20s, and I moved into New York. And we formed our own little company. It was kind of like having a band. Yeah. It was just and we had a little group of people who we would work with, and we found actors, and I designed the posters. We used to wheat paste them up on the walls back in the day. And
unless it said post no bills, it was fair game.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was really kind of just, there was a community there. This is like the late 80s, early 90s in New York City. And it was what you call off-Broadway, like downtown New York for no money. And I basically did that for several years, just temping in offices during the day. Yeah. And then one thing led to another, because you're in New York, you start meeting people, and I got a part in an off-Broadway play that paid me. Not a great deal, but it was the first time I really got paid weekly. And then I started meeting some independent film directors. But the first 2 years were just about producing ourselves, doing our own work. It was fun because we could cast against type. I was comfortable playing funny guys, and she'd be like, no, you should be the romantic lead, and the big good-looking guy should be the funny guy. Let's mix it up. And it was good because we were able to push ourselves. But that's how it started, and then it just sort of led to meeting directors and falling into. But I didn't have an agent for my first 10 years in New York, because I didn't need one, because I was just part of this community where it wasn't needed downtown. And Jackson Public, the creator of the Venture Brothers, was a friend of an old roommate of mine. And he had seen me for years, actually, perform and stuff downtown. And I think when I started getting film parts, but that came out of he was a classic friend of a friend, and he just asked me point blank to do the pilot. And it all worked out. Here I'm in Des Moines. Woo. So that's the relatively short version.
Now, And first of all, real quick, you did a film project where you played underground cartoonist Robert Crumb.
That's right.
The life story of Harvey Carr.
That's right.
Played by great and mighty. So, did you meet Crumb at some point, or was it just
no?
Okay.
So does anyone know this movie that we're not naming for union reasons? That's about the underground cartoonist Harvey P. Carr. So Harvey P. Carr was this writer who wrote comics, but he didn't actually draw, and he was old friends with the famous cartoonist Robert Crumb. And so Robert Crumb illustrated his first comics. And then when Crumb was aboard, other illustrators came along. But Harvey Pekar was a fascinating guy. I discovered him in the 80s. He was this sort of eccentric, sort of beatnik intellectual crank.
Yes.
Who lived in Cleveland and was a file clerk. And so he wrote these stories about his life as a Cleveland file clerk who liked buying jazz records and complaining about things. And he called them the comics were called American Splendor.
You can say it. The comic was called American Splendor.
Which was ironic, an ironic title. Anyway, 20 years ago, these two talented people made a movie about this guy. And I play Robert Crumb, the cartoonist. So I made the movie, and Harvey was very complimentary to me because Harvey was there.
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti plays Harvey in the movie, but
And that kind of leveled Giamatti up.
it was his first starring role, his first time he starred in a movie.
Yeah.
But a couple things happened. One is the movie came out. Crumb lives in France, so he wasn't around the set.
Yeah.
But I was once at some convention, and his daughter, Sophie, is a comics artist. And someone said to me, "That's Sophie Crumb over there. You should go up to her." I said, "What am I going to do?" And he said, "Just do it." So I went, "Hi, I played your dad in that movie." And she went, "Oh, yeah, that was really weird. But in some shots, you really looked like him." So that was nice. And then the second half of the story is, years later, Robert Crumb came to L.A., where I live, to promote a book that he had just published. And he was interviewed on stage like this. And then at the end of the interview, they did a Q&A, and someone said, "What did you think about your portrayal in the movie where the guy acted as you?" And he said, "Oh, well, I mean, I didn't think it was like me, but I'm me. I wouldn't think anyone was like me. But my wife really hated it, and she said if I was anything like that, she never would have married me." Now, Crumb is a famous curmudgeon, so I took this to be high praise. Because I thought he sucked. He just said, my wife didn't like it, and hey, I'm me. Of course, I didn't think he was like me. So that to me was like a triumph. But he didn't know that I was in the audience, and I certainly didn't go, "Hey, I'm right here."
Hey, I'm standing right here. Yeah. Well, I thought you captured it because, again, knowing him from his rare interviews, but the rares I've seen, and
there's a great documentary by Terry Zwigoff called Crumb, which is a masterpiece and very distrusting too, because he's got like a fucked up family.
Yeah, his brother.
Yeah, he's got some very, very troubled brothers, but he somehow got out of it.
No, I thought you captured it, and
thank you.
I've thoroughly enjoyed your non-animation work, and
I played a few like real people.
Yeah, you've done it too. Recently, the Atomic Bomb movie.
In the unnamed Atomic Bomb movie.
Yes.
Which is far from a bomb. It's a very successful movie. I have a tiny part as a colleague of Albert Einstein's, whose name was Kurt Gödel. Like girdle, the thing you wear, except it's German, so it's Goedel. Who was, I guess, a famous mathematician / philosopher, who math geeks, of which I am not one, always hated math. It's got like an Easter egg for them.
Yeah.
They go, "Oh, there he is, Einstein's friend. I know him." So I have like one line.
Well, I guess what I saw, I was like, "Hey, that's James. Hi."
I have a friend who also has like one line in Barbie, and I texted him and said, "We're the kings of the summer." Oh, I'm not in Barbie, so I can say that, right?
Yes, you can. Yes, that's the weird thing about these rules. You could talk about films and TV shows that you are not in.
That's right.
And your friends are in. So, yeah, this is daft. But like I said, we live in interesting times.
Now we're good.
But you've worked with some fantastic directors.
Yes, I've been lucky enough to work with some of the biggies, Mr. Spielberg,
Spielberg, Mr. Nolan.
Mr. Nolan.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them. It's been good.
No, absolutely. And let's go ahead and talk about Jonas. What a curious gig. Again, just almost 20 years ago, you did the Venture Bros pilot at this point.
It's true. It was almost 20 years ago. I have 17-year-old twins, and the show is older than them. And they've just started watching it recently, like in the last year. Because, there's some mild adult content in the show. But when they were 5, I didn't, show it to them. But it was always just this thing. I've got, like, Venture Brothers action figures in the house. I have the lunchbox on a shelf. So they've grown up their whole lives hearing about this thing that Dad does.
Yeah.
And then finally, My son was like 16. I was like, hey, do you want to watch this, by the way? Not that I was forcing him.
Sure.
But he wanted to, and then he really got into it. And then she did to a degree.
So does everybody. Over the past decade and a half, it's one of those. Oh, I've heard about it. Well, here I loaned the box set, and then I loaned the first season box set, and then literally like in 2 days, like, can I have another box next season, or can you just give me like 2 or 3 seasons worth?
My experience with that show is because it is a cult show. Oh. Not everyone knows it. So in my experience, people either absolutely love it or they've never heard of it. I rarely find anyone in between. But
you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that dislikes it. Like you said, they haven't heard about it, but when they get exposed to it,
and it makes you feel special. I once, talking about working with famous people, I worked with Al Pacino in a movie once, and I was in the makeup chair, and the makeup lady is like, "What else have you done?" And I'm like, "Oh, this and that," and I'm on this cartoon on Adult Swim called The Venture Brothers, and the makeup woman went. Like she had a whole reaction. She had to move away from the chair, like to brace herself. And then she said, no, you don't understand. Al Pacino sits in this chair every morning. I am more starstruck that Dr. Venture is here. So if you're a working actor like me, that's a good feeling, that she's more impressed by you than the great Al Pacino.
Oh, absolutely. And I had to ask, it must have been an interesting ride for you just as an actor, because again, that... It started off, okay, they started off, okay, it's a Johnny Quest parody and satire, yes. But they just had, those two lads just had the free hand, and they were just kind of left to their own devices all these years, and they just really given your character such a wonderful arc.
Yeah.
And along with all the others, and just nobody ever saw it coming, that these genuine moments of heart and sympathy and rage. And
yeah, no, I mean, that was such a great, one of my favorite things working on the show for years was when a new season was coming up and they would send me the scripts, and you would get them piecemeal. So I might get like episode 1 or 2 of the second season, or then a couple weeks later I get another episode. And I remember consistently every season I would read the new scripts and go, oh wow, the show is really expanding and they're really outdoing themselves again. And it was just so exciting. The other funny thing is I would read the scripts and then we would record, and you just record your part. Everyone records separately. And then at least a year would go by, and by the time the episodes aired, I would have forgotten what I'd read or recorded. So I was like a new viewer. I was like, that's funny. I don't remember that.
And there are the moments where they're like, that's Tom Clancy that cast that character. Oh, how fun, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then hearing the voices and being surprised by who they cast and stuff for guest parts.
Did the lads ever, and the lads I mean, Public and
Jackson Public and Doc Hammer.
Did they ever like sit down with you and give you any inclination? This is kind of the North Star, we're going towards this character, or was it just you got the scripts and maybe a couple of side notes?
There were like, oh, my phone just went off. Let me turn that down because that's distracting. They would, Jackson would, if he had a very specific idea, there might even be a reference. He'd be like, it's like this, it's basically I'm doing this character from this movie or whatever. I mean, I'll tell you, I've told this story before, but the first day of recording ever for the pilot, I went in, and so we'd never recorded anything yet. And I thought, well, he's Dr. Venture, the wacky scientist. So when I started recording, I was kind of doing this somewhat cartoony, kind of rubbery, kind of like a Billy West voice. Dean, get in here. And Jackson went, it's good, just a little less of that thing you're doing. And I was like, oh, okay. Dean, get a little less. Dean, get less. Dean, that's it. I'm like, that's my voice. And it really is just my voice, except with a different attitude. Because as you can tell, I'm more chill than Dr. Venture.
Yes, you don't.
I try to be anyway.
You don't have his self-loathing.
No, well, I hide it away more. Let's put it that way.
Better. And you got hair.
And I have hair. Yes. Thank you, God.
I will never not laugh at that reading, discovering his brother. You're the reason I don't have hair.
And then the brother was funny because the first time that Jonas Jr. was introduced, if you remember, I forget which season it is, like the end of 2, I think. Oh, thank you. You know the show better than I do. And there you get it. You get a.
Thank you.
You get a snack.
There you go.
You get a cheese roll. He, as you remember, when he's introduced, he's very ominous and scary, and he's like in shadow, and he's kind of talking like this. And I remember doing this kind of voice, which at the time I was thinking was like a Clint Eastwood voice, that kind of thing. And then the next season, the great joke of the next season is he's like Mr. Fabulous, and he's like, "Hey, Rusty," and it's a totally different voice. Like that's a situation where, because the nature of the character was sort of reinvented for the next season, the voice, and then my inspiration for that voice was more Charlton Heston, and that kind of way that he does his vowels, you goddamn dirty ape. But it's like Happy Heston. Hey, Rusty! Yeah,
when the episode that focuses on him and he's like trying to figure out, so I have an arch villain? Well, who don't the good guys work? And then halfway through he's like, I'm beginning to see the allure of this lifestyle. Which is the fun of this bizarre universe that they created of these villains and masterminds and this wacky science and everything else, but there's a resemblance to it that it works.
Yeah, because they're all sort of schlubs and schmucks, basically, and they're all unhappy. Yeah. And we can relate to that.
Absolutely. And again, and I won't go into spoilers, but I am so glad that the lads were able to give us Baboon Heart and at least a stopping off point.
And then I actually talked to a couple of fans today who didn't even know the movie was out. So it is out. It's available. Yes. It's out there. You can find it. And it's really good. That was another thing where they worked on that for a long time. Yeah. When I finally got that script, I was so excited. And then it was
because I believe it was a truncation. Amazing. It was supposed to be the last season.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure there are elements of that because...
Yeah, I believe it was. They thought they were going to have one
They'd had
season.
Ideas, yeah. But I think it works really well as like that compressed 90-minute story.
No, it does, and it hits all the points.
Yeah.
It hits all the points and gets us all on the heartstrings. And I'll leave it at that if you haven't seen it, but please, by all means, check it on out. When did you realize that this had gotten a following? Except maybe there was a Pacino lady in the makeup chair, but
well, that was
a strong sign.
That was a strong sign. Once I was at the LA Zoo. My son is 17 now, and he was a little boy. This is several years ago, and we were literally standing in front of like the gorillas at the LA Zoo, and I was talking to him, and a guy came up to me and he went, "Excuse me, Are you Dr. Venture?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I recognized your voice." And I thought, wait a minute. I sound like Dr. Venture when I'm with my son? That's not a good sign. And then I'm like, it is like a Venture Brothers episode. There are gorillas present. Look at the gorillas, son. But that was
get his clothes.
But a guy literally hearing my voice and not knowing my face and just saying, that was a good sign for me. Yeah. Like, all right, it's out there. People know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then just the slow thing of, like meeting people who expressed how much they loved the show. It's always very touching because that has been a thing where people don't just go, that's a fun show. I like it. They're like, it's incredible. I love it. And deservedly so. It's a brilliant show. Not just because I'm on it. It's about the guys who created it and it's all about their ideas.
It's a model for the perfect balance of letting creators, giving them exactly what they need and trusting them.
That's very true. And then there's such a great, and people are so affected by it beyond just the humor of the show. People really connect with it.
And that's what it is. There's great opportunities for everybody who's cast on the show because there's wonderful scenes. I mean, there's great laughs, there's good cries, and there's wonderful feels.
Yeah, and I've had a fun when early in the show this is going into old-timey times, but I had a live journal. You remember live journal, folks? Pre-social networks. Yeah. And because Jackson had started one, and I thought, I'm going to start one. I can do that too. And then the bulk of my followers were Venture Brothers fans, and some of them were very young, like people in college. And now, like, one of those people is an artist named Chandra Free, who actually does the convention circuit. He's pretty well known. And there you go. Yes, a personal friend of Ryla. And we became good friends and still are. And like, because that's like a 20-year time period now, you know. So I've also like had relationships with people who, through that show, that are very important to me, you know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for indulging my capricious curiosity. Before I turn it over for our audience questions, I just want to say this on behalf of myself and the audience. I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for your talents. I want to thank you for your professionalism. And I thank you for the performances not only you brought to this these wonderful characters, but just in all your roles on screen.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem. All right, let's go ahead. We got a yellow X over here. If somebody wants to come on up, whoever asks the first question actually gets 2 pieces of candy. So don't make me do this Donahue style where I got to come to you. And if you're old enough to know that reference. All right, we got the cosplayer going on. Okay, first of all, this is a great cosplay, by the way. Give a round of applause for that.
We met earlier. It's an excellent venture outfit.
Absolutely. So what's your name?
Ryan.
Ryan, what do you want to know?
I'm not sure on the timeline between Bowie's death and you voicing him in the show, but do you know if he was aware of your impersonation?
Ooh, wow. I'm not aware that he knew, and I doubt that he had heard it, although I believe he did once do a voice on SpongeBob or something, so I know that he was into cartoons and stuff to a degree. So, no, I don't know that Bowie had ever heard that, but I love doing that voice. I think I got better doing Bowie as time went on. I realized the secret to doing Bowie is you start with Bob Hoskins, the British actor, not Bob Hoskins in Roger Rabbit, where he's doing an American accent, but Bob Hoskins in The Long Good Friday.
Long Good Friday, yeah.
Where he's doing like a Cockney guy. So Bob Hoskins kind of talks like this, like a Cockney guy, and then you just sort of smooth it out a little, you burnish it, and then you've got Bowie. I'm going to go on tour, you know. So it's like zhuzhed up Bob Hoskins. That's how I do Bowie.
Awesome. There you go. Great question. Thank you.
Because they're both from London, so it's the London dialect.
Absolutely. Hi, what's your name?
Emily. What is like the weirdest thing that you had to like say for the show that like you can remember? Like, do you know like what line felt like the weirdest having to say?
Well, I remember the classic episode, Are You There, God? It's Me, Dean, where Dean gets testicular torsion, which is a real syndrome, folks, where your gonads get twisted. There's a very funny thing at the end of that episode where the characters do a PSA, and it's like, if you have testicular torsion, your genitals may be dying. You know, it's like absurd stuff like that. And it's a very funny show, but I remember recording that, and I like literally could not get through a single take because I just kept cracking up. I mean, your genitals may... And I swear, if you listen to it, you can hear me almost laughing. But so that wasn't necessarily the weirdest, but I remember that as just a very memorable moment in the booth where just saying those words in that, because I also had to sound like Dr. Venture is not a good performer, so it's all very kind of flat. And that just combination just killed me. I thought it was so funny.
Let's go. Great question. Thank you.
It's the bat.
What's your name?
My name is Julian.
Okay. What do you want to know?
What is your favorite episode of The Venture Brothers and why is it?
I gotta say, it's an early one, but I have an incredible fondness for the yard sale episode. Tag Sale You're It, thank you. Which it just was particularly funny, and I think that's sort of an early one where we also see this canvas of these sort of outside characters, some of who were sort of just thought of as one-offs, who show up and have more prominent roles later in the show. But I particularly loved that one. Yeah, and I just love the image of Dr. Venture on his lawn chair with his little hat. Yeah. Nobody gets the shrink ray. You know.
What's your favorite episode?
I actually haven't watched any.
Well, you're in for a treat, Bat. That's the son of our Dr.
I was about to
Venture
say,
cosplayer, by the way.
Then I'll pose this question. What's your favorite episode?
I don't know the names, but the one where they first meet the pirate guy, the ghost.
Yes, thank you.
By the way, I can't remember these titles, but these ladies are like so on it. Jordan, thank you.
That'd do it.
So nice. Like I met half the crowd already at my table. It's so nice.
That's why I told everybody to crowd on in. We got a chill group here. It's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your name?
Alexis.
Alexis, what do you want to know?
Well, what I want to know is, if you had to drink them, which of the Docktails would you drink?
If I had to drink one of the Docktails, which one would? It'd have to be Red Mocha Cooler, right? That's like the flagship cocktail. I know some people have seen this, but a guy on YouTube did a great video where he basically makes all of Dr. Venture's cocktails and drinks them. And like he says, they're all disgusting, but he does it as an homage to the show. It's a great video.
There you go. All right, I'll take hands. Come on. Ladies, you're the expert.
Question I had.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, I'll come to you, boss. All right. It's all good. It's all good. Hey, what's your name?
Jeff.
Jeff, what do you want to know?
So one of my favorite memories from the show is when Dr. Venture is introducing one of his sons to prog. What music do you listen to?
Wait, can you repeat that?
One of my favorite moments was when he was introducing one of the boys to prog rock.
Yes.
What music do you listen to?
What music does James Urbaniak listen to? It's funny because I enjoy that stuff that Dr. Venture is into, but I'm not so prog rocky. You know? I think I bought 2 Pink Floyd albums. He's in a Floyd hole. That was like one of my all-time favorite lines ever. I'm an aging Gen Xer, so I like, grungy, wungy music and old-timey jazz. You know the Tim Heidecker character, and I Think You Should Leave, in the sketch where he's playing celebrity with a bunch of younger people, but he's like a Gen Xer and they're all millennials or younger, and he's just saying and they're making up fake names, but he's like getting angry that they don't know this jazz saxophonist from the 1930s. That's me. That sketch tore my skin off. I couldn't believe it.
Who's got another? All right. Hey, what's your name?
Rilo. Hi, James.
Hello.
I gotta know, how hard was it to stay like that consistent when voicing id version of Rusty Venture?
Oh my God.
Oh, yes. That was a great episode. What was the quality of id, Rusty? He was just more confident.
He talked like this.
Yeah.
Stilton man talking like you cannot have these.
That's right.
Rusty can have any of these.
Yeah. I don't think that was particularly difficult. It was just I thought that was such a funny idea. That felt like on the show when Rusty in real Rusty life does public speaking, he kind of talks like this, presenting the walking whatever, like when he speaks in public. So I feel like that was already sort of part of his personality, the sort of pompous version, the pompous stentorian version. I remember reading that episode and loving it.
Well, you guys are
That's
great
wonderful.
cosplay. Stand up. We gotta let you see this.
Triana Orpheus is here, by the way.
What's your name?
Jordan.
Yeah, what do you got?
My question is, beyond Rusty, you voiced a few other characters in the show, and I was interested, how did you come to your Phantom Limb voice?
Phantom Limb came really quickly. It was like I told the story about how Jason kept whittling away at my effort at a Rusty voice until it was just James Urbaniak. But I think he had shown me the picture of him, and I'd read the first script. He didn't really talk about the voice, but I just thought, well, obviously he's kind of like an Englishy, like Errol Flynn or something, And then I just remember trying to reach into my deeper register and then going very close to the mic. When you do Phantom Limb, if you get very close to the mic, it's easier to do it that way. And then I think I was sort of influenced by a couple people. There's a little Ian McKellen in there. The way he pronounces his long A's. like the word day. He'll be, so foul and fair a die I have not seen. And that's sort of Phantom Limb's vowels. And then there's an old character actor from the 40s and 50s named George Sanders. He's in All About Eve. And he's also British, and he has this very sarcastic quality.
The voice of Shere Khan. And
yeah, the voice of Shere Khan in Jungle Book. So there's a little bit of him in there, too. So, yeah, it was a little mix of influences. But it came to me like, it was the first voice I tried, and Chris was like, Chris Jackson, whatever his name is, said, that's it, great, love it. So there was no tweaking of that one. It came out kind of fully formed.
Who's got it? All right, back to the doctor. What you got?
So I went back when I had Instagram. I followed Doc Hammer on there, and he'd post a lot of his paintings and stuff. And
yes.
Just wondering what you thought of his artwork, because I don't know, I love it, but I don't know if you're a fan of art or paintings.
I am, and years ago I went to an exhibit that he had of his paintings. Doc Hammer, the co-writer of the show, is a very talented oil painter, and he does these. His big subject is ladies. He does these very beautiful portraits of women and friends of his, and their quality and tone is very different than the Venture Brothers. It's a very different sensibility. It's more sort of pensive and internal, and so yeah, I love it. He's a very talented person. He's a very gifted man, Doc Hammer. But yeah, I love his art, and it's very impressive to be in a gallery and see them all on the wall together, which I've experienced.
Do you have another one? Yeah, what you got?
What was your favorite voice line over the years?
Could you repeat the question?
Favorite voice.
Favorite voice what?
Favorite line that you.
Oh, my favorite line. Well, one of my all-time favorite lines, and ladies, you'll have to correct me if I get this one wrong. But the Venture Brothers are twins, and there's a line in an episode where Hank is saying, they're having an argument, and Hank says something to the effect of, I may be paraphrasing, trust me, I'm your older brother. And then Dean says, by 5 minutes. And then Hank says, well, maybe in 5 minutes you'll understand. That's one of my all-time favorite lines of the show.
Yep. Because small top was. Yeah, because that was fascinating 911.
By the way, Doc and I were once at a con, and we did a thing where it was a Venture Brothers trivia contest, and it was me and Doc versus the audience, and the audience won.
Did.
Doc was like, I don't remember. I wrote the thing. I know.
I will always love when season 2 opener, when Orpheus discovers the truth about the boys, and then Doc says, for whatever it's worth, the ones you knew weren't even the originals.
And then another favorite line of mine is, of course, one of the most classic sequences when he's recounting the various deaths of his clone boys, when that's revealed, and he's in his he's jumping off a roof with an umbrella in his Batman mask, and then it's all these crazy, bizarre deaths, and then it's just one of the bedroom, and he says, we had a gas leak that time, the silent killer. That really cracked me up.
That was a good one. Was that perfect pause?
Yes, the silent killer.
The silent killer. Who's got another one? Oh, okay, thanks. Hey, what's your name?
My name is Bailey. Hello. If you could have any of the inventions, what would you like to keep? I would like to keep Helper.
Aw.
Well, Helper is amazing. My goodness. I mean, it would have to be the walking eye. It's a walking eye. It's so iconic.
So you want a Helper? Okay. Who would want Helper? Hey, show of hands. Okay. Who want the eye? Okay. Who's got another one they want?
I was saying.
Well, Helper's like having a pet. There's a certain responsibility. The walking eye is just a machine.
Yeah.
So there's no emotional. I'm just saying I might not want to invest in the emotional attachment that would require dealing with Helper.
Right.
Both, because at one point in the show, I mean, Cobra is attached to the walking ice.
True.
Very good.
True. Best of both worlds.
Rock was here.
Look at the living Wikipedia page. It's great.
Yeah.
I have done multiple walkthrough sessions with my friends, and at this point in time, my friends and I watch it every Saturday. We just finished season 4, so I was like, well, I'll be at a convention.
Yeah, it's all fresh in your head now.
Sounds good. Next time we book him, we'll book you, and then you can you'll be on the stage there. So you just whisper. We'll give you a monitor. You whisper in his ear, episode 147. It's good. Who's got another?
Entire scene from
All right.
Remember.
No, of course. Hey, what you got? What's your name?
Chris.
Chris, what you got?
Acknowledging the extreme difference of character versus real life, did you find that being a father of twins now impacts your character, or that anything from your character impacts your interaction with your twins?
Well, I can tell you one funny story, which is that the show predates my twins. And the day that I went to the doctor, and they did the whatchamacallit, when they show you the picture of your the ultrasound. Thank you. It's been a long day. You're also there for scientific terms. Thank you. When I saw the ultrasound and learned that I was having twins, I was very happy. I was like, it's a boy and a girl. And I was like, all right, this is great. And I was in a very good mood. And then that afternoon, I had a Venture Brothers recording session. And I went in, and I'm feeling really good. And I'm doing Dr. Venture, and Jackson, and I didn't tell him what had just happened. I just showed up. And Jackson said, you just sound a little off, like you don't sound as pissed off. And I was like, oh my God, my personal happiness is filtering into the voice. Think of something bad. So that is a day that my own twins literally affected my Venture Brothers performance.
Good one, thank you. Who's got another? We got time for one or two more. So, all right, what you got?
So what would you say has been your favorite moment through either working on the show, or, in the show itself?
Favorite? Yeah. No, I mean, there have been so many favorite moments. I mean, it sounds like I'm being schmaltzy here, but it's like things like this, like where I meet fans and people that I don't know, and the cumulative effect of people's reaction to the show and how important it is to them. That genuinely means something to me. So that's been great, And just getting to know Jackson and Doc and them being friends has been great, because they're so talented, and but like they're genuine friends of mine, and they're special guys, so that's been very good.
It's been a very fruitful partnership.
Quite fruitful, all the fruits.
Yes.
Plums, bananas,
papayas,
mango,
corn de cob, tomatoes.
And let's not forget, it is a fruit.
Yes, it is. Who's got one to close us out on?
Yeah, the closer.
Right.
Here we go.
We haven't heard from this fella yet. Hey, what's your name? Matt, what you got for us?
Do you get to interact with any of the other voice actors too often?
Well, the first season we did a little stuff where we would record at the same time. So we'd have like 4 mics set up, and it would be me, Patrick Warburton, Chris, and then some animated shows record that way, but that's more the exception. So then for most of the session, and after that, for every season, I would just record separately, and then maybe I'd cross paths with Patrick Warburton. The funny thing is, like, I did a live action pilot with Patrick, like in the late 90s that never aired. It was for Fox. I don't think you can find it anywhere, sadly. But we were both on this show, so we had met then. But for like the first 3 seasons of Venture Brothers, we were never in the same room. But it works. Like, it's cut together very well. And then finally I ran into him one day, like he was leaving the studio and I was coming in. So that would happen. And then I don't see Patrick around. He's a great guy. I just don't see him around that much. But some of the other actors were like old friends of mine who I suggested, like Steve Vertazzi, who plays Dr. Orpheus. And so some of them I still see just socially, because they're people who are friends. Paul Bucock, who plays Jonas Sr., I was just texting him yesterday.
We got one more. You had your hand up. What's your name?
Matthew.
Matthew, which one?
Did you ever receive a script where you looked at it and you said, I'm not saying that?
I don't think so. No, the only thing that's happened is sometimes I have to, I don't necessarily get every reference on the show. So sometimes I would just be befuddled and have to say, I don't know what this means. Explain it to me, and then they would. But I don't think I ever had any moral objections or anything.
There you go. So before we wrap up, anything on any projects on the horizon you can share with us?
Yeah, sort of, kind of. There are, but I can't say titles of things, right?
Yeah.
Suffice it to say that before the strike, I did some projects. There's a couple of movies, and I did a TV comedy that I had a little part in that Kristen Wiig is in. That's supposed to, but I don't know when it's coming out. So if you hear about a Kristen Wiig sitcom, I show up in that a couple times.
I'm a huge fan of hers.
Me too, and she's a very nice lady.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Great to work with. Then there's a couple other sort of independent movies that are coming out. Yeah, that's about it. My wife and I have an idea for a podcast that we want to try to put out there that we're going to do together.
Oh, awesome. Any, when we say a good idea, can you give us a hint on that yet? Or?
Well, my wife and I are different generations, and so we have some different cultural touchstones for things that informed us when we were younger. So, so it's sort of about us talking about shows or things that we grew up with that the other one just doesn't understand.
Right.
And that's sort of the idea.
Okay.
So, she'll explain what Power Rangers are. And I'm like, that's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to explain, I don't know, pavement or something. She'd be like, yeah, I don't know. So that's, yes.
The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show.
Yeah, exactly. So it's us
the uncensored versions up to 1980.
It's us sort of explaining these things, these cultural things, and to someone who doesn't really know anything about them. And then we get questions from the other person and so forth. Seems promising, right?
I look forward to this.
And we have a certain rapport. Yeah. Well, we made a demo, and we're going to try to shop it around.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Look for that wherever you get your future podcasts.
Sounds good. All right. Animate 2023. This was James Urbaniak, and that was our time. He'll be back at his table just a little bit.